My name is Amanda May. I'm 42 years old and I'm here to tell my story. I'm an alumni from the Servants Anonymous Society. I went through that program, I think, multiple times, but I'll start at the very beginning. So I was a troubled youth. I never knew my biological father until I was about 15. So in doing work on myself, I believe that had a lot to do with it. But from the age of 13, I was put in foster care, and I met all the other kids that taught me all the things. And I spent some time in and out of juvie, and I would get released to transition houses, recovery houses, and then I landed in Servants Anonymous Society. There's a little bit of story before that goes into the industry of sex work and exploitation, and that's how I ended up at SAS. And I was there, I don't know the exact years, but I was there while I was getting back on my feet. I was attending medical school to be a medical office assistant, and I was able to do that while living at SAS. Even to this day, I would say 15 to 18 years later, I'm still in contact with the women from that house. I still have a wonderful relationship with the house mom, even to this day, and the staff that work there. So we've all stayed in touch throughout the years. Unfortunately, I didn't make it on those few attempts through SAS. It took me a few years of picking myself up and trying again. And eventually I made my way to Peardenville Treatment Center because I was a mother at that point, and I had a daughter that was estranged. She was very young at the time, but due to my lifestyle, she ended up living with her father. So the goal was to ultimately get my daughter back in my life. And one day in my addiction, being homeless, staying in hotel rooms, and really struggling to make things work for myself, I decided that it was time, and I made that decision. I was done, and that was September of 2016. So this year will be 10 years, and so I don't want to get into too much detail about the addiction, but I can tell you how my life has changed now. And so sitting here with you at 42 years old, I have been working in the harm reduction and supportive housing industry since I was 1 year clean. I started on the downtown east side as a support worker, community outreach worker, and then I became a manager, and I've been managing supportive housing. And I can't advocate enough for people with lived experience in this field, because I have had the same thoughts. I've been in the same positions. I've felt the same feelings. And so no one can relate to people who are struggling like people like myself who have been there and done that. And today I'm still managing supportive housing, and I have great relationships with my residents and my team. I get to be a leader now. And so for the past 10 years, I've really honed in on my skills. Looking back, I remember thinking, I got clean at 30 something. So what am I going to do with my life? I have this medical background to fall back on, which is helpful in the industry that we work in now. And I'm glad that I took that course and did that at the time. I never graduated high school. These are some regrets that I have. And I have my daughter in my life. She's now 20 and she's in university. Life is really good. I have no complaints. And I just want to say thank you to Servants Anonymous Society for giving me those relationships that I built over the years with the other women and the staff that have stayed in contact with me, that I could reach out to even when I was struggling. And the house mom would come and get me and pop me into a recovery house somewhere and make sure I was okay. But here I am all these years later, and I'm successful. I'm happy. I'm married. I have 4 children. That's my story.
That's a wonderful, wonderful story. So, Amanda, what do you do these days? I mean, I know that, but our viewers would like to know.
Absolutely. Actually, I work for Phoenix Society, and I will say I'm alumni from Phoenix Society as well. So throughout my struggles, I popped in and out of many treatment centers, many recovery houses. I've tried many, many things. But I have been clean and sober ever since I went through Phoenix Society's second stage housing. And I am very grateful to be working for them today and managing a 60-unit supportive housing building in Surrey that just opened this month. And I have a great team. I have great support from leadership. I was really set up for success there. And I feel like with my lived experience, I'm best served with people that are still experiencing substance use, mental health, homelessness. And so I get to do work there, good work and rewarding work.
So SAS doesn't exist anymore. And what do you feel about organizations like that? Should there be more of them?
Absolutely.
And should organizations like Surrey-Delta, how can we support such entities like SAS? Can you kind of elaborate?
I can speak to that. Yeah. So in my experience in going through the recovery house gamut in Surrey, and there are some that are great and there are some that are not great, but Servants Anonymous Society had programming supports. We would attend school. They would support us to gain employment. And like I said, I was attending Sprott College at the time, and they made that, they allowed me the ability to come and go from school, even though I was in a house and in programming. The need for places like that, especially for just women. It's not easy for women in addiction. We're easily exploited and very vulnerable. And so for organizations like Surrey-Delta to, if they have housing, if they have a place for women to go, funding is always an issue. But this is where organizations like Surrey-Delta can come in and support. But really, not just warehousing people and putting people in a home, but actually providing programming and providing supports, providing opportunity.
Good. Anybody have any questions for Amanda? Yvonne?
I just jumped in at the last minute, but it's great to hear. I served on Surrey-Delta for about 8 years, and I know the good work they did as well. But yes, we need more of that. We definitely need more of that because, of course, for us too, it was just the fact that the funding went out and we couldn't support it. But we saw so many women like you now become strong leaders. And now you take on that role and you raise up the next. So it's so wonderful. So yes, we need way more of these kind of places.
Yeah,
I agree.
Agreed.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about Phoenix and the managerial skills you've picked up. Has it been purely school? I know you did go to school while you were with SAS, but how has that helped you fulfill your job at Phoenix? And is it still an ongoing learning experience at Phoenix?
If you're always learning and you're always growing, and right now I am right now I am fairly new to Phoenix, but like I said, there's great leadership and support. The skills that I get to utilize today come from my lived experience, but also, I've learned, I had to learn how to operate a computer and, things like that. My skills come from people in a leadership role where I need to be a leader and be an example, just ensuring that every individual has supports in place, that we're not warehousing people, that we're implementing programming, we're giving them opportunity for life skills, education, employment, and that we're not just leaving them in their rooms isolated.
So would you say that there exists out there specific programs in schools, in technical schools, in colleges, and even at the university level that have courses tailor-made for your kind of work? And if there isn't, would you recommend or would you advocate that these kind of tailor-made courses be offered to people who, like you, who are interested to get back on their feet and give back to the community?
Absolutely. There are many community support worker, harm reduction support worker, mental health and addictions courses available at a lot of community colleges or even universities. But I find there is no education like real lived, hands-on. I was very lucky to start on the downtown east side and get that experience of what most would call the worst of the worst. And so today there's nothing that shocks or surprises me, and I've pretty much seen it all. But yes, the people that I hire on my team will have some education in that field and lived experience, or a mix of both. But I find that the lived experience is such a huge asset in this field.
Mm-hmm. So are you planning to document some of your experiences like on a blog post or some kind? Because I ask that because for somebody listening to you, a younger person or somebody who's facing challenges in their life similar to yours, might want a bit of guidance and they don't know where to start. So I wouldn't say handbook, but just some documentation to start them off might be helpful. What are your thoughts on
I remember being in my addiction and going, how do I get from where I am now to where I need to be? And there are some things like, the 4-pillared approach where you need the harm reduction, you need wraparound services, you need medical support, you need spiritual, emotional, you need every aspect of your life to be changed. If you're entrenched in addiction or you're experiencing mental health, then you need supports and you need counseling or you need a family doctor. You got to start there. And really, I'm an advocate for housing first. So if you're unhoused, it's very hard to accomplish anything if you don't have a roof over your head. Once you have a home base, then you can start to look at those other aspects of your life. But it's very difficult to do so if you don't know where you're going to sleep tonight or what you're going to eat. I have not personally thought about documenting or putting that out there. I'm just even though I'm 10 years, I'm still learning how to rebuild my life and grow and achieve goals. So I just say getting from point A to point B looks like housing first, looks like addiction treatment and supports. There are great treatment centers and options out there for people. It's hard to do if you're alone. You really need support on your side.
And how do you personally advocate for affordable housing, if you do at all? I mean, apart from your work at Phoenix, are there other avenues that you look at, opportunities where you can advocate? Because we all know the housing crisis, especially on the West Coast. How would you as an individual seek out places?
So for myself, my advocating for affordable housing is I'm very lucky to have a lot of relationships in community organizations and other nonprofits that provide housing or maybe a mixed rental housing, and just whether that looks like writing reference letters for individuals looking for housing or making phone calls to find vacancies through my community connections. That's how I advocate right now, but not on a higher level of legislature or anything like that.
So what would you like in an ideal world? What would you like to see happen that the voices advocating for affordable housing are heard? What kind of scenario comes to mind?
I think that the rent geared to income housing is a great start for BC. There's a lot of that where your income is calculated on 30% of your income. That would be your rent. I know people in my life that have purchased houses and they're what we would call house poor. They may have a roof over their head, but with the price of gas and the price of groceries, that they have to make choices. Are we gonna pay the insurance today, or are we gonna go to Costco and fill the fridge? And so, everybody's struggling. But there are, you just have to know your resources in your community organizations. BC Housing has a rent subsidy program as well. And so in knowing that, we need more options. Right now, there's not enough units, not enough vacancies for the BC Housing list right now is, hundreds of people waiting for 2-3 years just to get whether it's a supportive housing unit or any kind of regular registry unit. It can take years.
So going back to something you said, which seems very relevant and urgent, is would you say most of the time the people who are going through a housing crisis or the unhoused are not really aware of the resources that exist that are there? I mean, they're not many and they're not ideal, but they are resources available there. So that's one part of my question. Second part is, if that's the case, how can organizations like ours and yours help bring that awareness that there are resources available, whatever they are?
I think that goes back to being stuck. If you're fully entrenched in addiction or you're experiencing homelessness and mental health, how do you get from point A to B? And that looks like those community teams that are out there. So there's an intensive case management team, there's Rain City, there's Lookout, there's homeless outreach teams. And so if people are not aware of those resources, I see a lot of feet on the street, people out there handing business cards out. And just, if you're struggling and if you're fully entrenched, it may be really hard to make it to an appointment or meet somebody. And so these are barriers that people experience in finding housing. The only type of housing available for people that are really struggling would be like an SRO on the downtown east side. And if you want to take someone who may be on the street in Cloverdale and put them on the downtown east side, you're not setting them up for success. And so we need more options in our local communities and our neighborhoods. Again, it's not easy. And the routes that I took were, treatment center, detox. They have those supports in place. They can assist you in getting those teams. That's my job as a manager of supportive housing, to connect people to these teams. If we can't fill that gap in service, then we need to bring in a professional or bring in a team. The more support an individual has, the more they'll be maintaining their housing, and they won't be at risk of losing their housing. If I have an issue with an individual, I can call their team, bring in that support. We can really support that individual rather than have them lose their housing.
So what more can organizations like Phoenix do to get the word out that they're there to help? And what would you recommend to outreach workers? They are very well trained, but are there gaps that you have experienced and seen that can be filled? So what are your ideas or recommendations?
My ideas and recommendations would be for more housing, more units. We need more buildings. We need homes. We need options. The gaps in service are, even if you have an outreach team, it doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get a unit. You still have to fill out BC Housing paperwork and get on that wait list. That takes forever. Now, if BC Housing had more access to those units, or there was just an organization like SAS or Surrey-Delta that had a building that had vacancies, getting the word out, and whether that looks like a press release or newsletters or flyers, anything that we can put up in the bulletin boards in the building to let people know. And the route, what do I need to do? How do I get a unit there? I have people show up at my door asking for units. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, but we can direct them. But it is a lot of footwork, a lot of effort, a lot of paperwork, and a lot of follow through that maybe people that are struggling with addiction or mental health can't really do without support. Yeah.
So just one last question from me, because you've done such a fabulous job of explaining and telling your story, sharing it with us. City of Surrey, you know there's an election coming up. So do you have any kind of a detailed message for them? Because these things that you're talking about, housing, and pointing people who need the housing most in the right direction, it cannot be done in isolation. You as an individual, or Phoenix as an organization, or the Optimus, we can't do this without the city engine that's put it behind us. So what would you say if you were presenting to City of Surrey?
I would say that our budget needs to reflect the need that we see. If you drive down any street in Surrey, you will see unhoused people, you will see addiction, you will see mental health. And I think I want to thank the City of Surrey for investing millions of dollars in our new program, in the Rapid Housing 3, they call it. And so it is possible and it is happening. It's just not happening at the rate that people are becoming unhoused. So every year the homeless count goes up, but our unit count stays low. And we need more programs, more operators, more nonprofits, more organizations to provide this support, provide housing, and not just housing, but all those supports that come along with it to really make a difference and make an impact in someone's life. I can speak from experience. We are better off building buildings and apartments, modulars, than those recovery houses that pop up on a corner that are run by who knows, and there's no food and everyone's got to fend for themselves. So I've seen that change from the early 2000s, where we had all those recovery houses that were not, government backed or funded, to today, where we're working in partnership with BC Housing and we're providing these units. We need more of these buildings, and we need them like in the next 2 years.
And just going from there, since we're in a commercial area here, do you think it would be viable to reach out to the commercial community, shops, small business owners, because they do get affected when the unhoused, they have no place to go, start living in doorways or on the backside of businesses. How viable is it to reach out and make the enterprises, big and small, partners into housing plans?
I think it's important. So we consult with the Surrey Business Improvement Association for our program that just opened, but also having an open line of communication with the small businesses in the neighborhood, where we are. If anybody has concerns, they have an email address. We respond within 24 hours. I know that some of the small businesses will provide coffee or a snack, or they're not just shooing people away. They're doing their best. And I think it's important to take their feedback, but also if people are against housing being built because it's in their neighborhood and they think it's going to impact their business and they're going to see street disorder, I will say, with the proper housing, those people are now indoors. They are not on your doorstep. And so that's really important. I know that we're all struggling with what we see in our communities, but those are human beings. Those are human beings that are in a really bad spot in their lives. So, be empathetic, be kind, have compassion, and talk to the City of Surrey about providing more housing.